Welcome to the Getting Started tutorial for networkcomms.net. This is the video equivalent of the Getting Started section of our website, which you can hopefully see in the background here. The aim of this video is to introduce you to networkcomms.net and quickly demonstrate the most basic features that networkcomms.net offers. There's two things you'll need to get up and running. The first is Visual Studio 2010 Express or better, and that should include .NET 4. Secondly, you will need the latest stable release of networkcomms.net, preferably the source zip bundle version. You can download that from the download section of our website. At the time of making this video, the most recent release was version 2, and the source zip bundle download link is here. Once you've downloaded that file, I downloaded it earlier to my desktop, you want to extract the zip and open the folder that it creates. Within there, hopefully you will find the networkcomms.net solution file, and if you double click that, hopefully it will open in Visual Studio. It's very likely that you'll get an error such as this referring to an invalid project type. This is due to the documentation requiring additional prerequisites, but for all intents and purposes, you can ignore this message and press OK. The networkcomms.net solution file itself actually contains several projects, as you can see here. The description of each of these projects and what it does is given at the bottom of the Getting Started section of our website. So if you'd like any more information about those, please start on the website. Networkcomms.net offers a vast range of features. However, as this is a Getting Started video, all I'm going to demonstrate now is the most basic example which we've included within the solution itself. In order to run that, we need to compile the solution. First, make sure that we're going to compile debug mode, and then we can either press F6 on our keyboard or right-click on the solution file itself and select Build Solution. The solution itself is quite large, it can take a couple of seconds to build, but once it has, we're going to browse to the build directory for the examples console project. And the quickest way to do that is to right-click on examples console and then open folder in Windows Explorer. This takes us straight to that project folder. Hopefully you'll now have a directory called bin, which we're going to open, and then within that a folder called debug, which should contain all of the compiled files for networkcomms.net. As you can see here, there's quite a lot of files that make up networkcomms.net, and that's because each independent project creates its own DLL. We do also provide a combined DLL on the website, so for advanced projects, should you want to include networkcomms.net, you can add just a single file and you don't have to worry about all of these. But for now, all we're going to run is example console.exe, so I'm going to open an instance of that. And it gives us the option of choosing between one of 4 different examples. So you're welcome to look at all of these examples in your own time, but for the purposes of this video, we're just going to select one for the basic example now. Any application that involves an aspect of networking is likely to bring up a notification of a firewall. On this computer, all I have configured is Windows Firewall. Depending on what firewall solution you've chosen, you may see a different message. But it's obviously important to allow the examples console.exe the correct privileges, otherwise it's not going to work. For the purposes of this video, I'm just going to allow access to all networks. Within the examples console.exe, what you'll see at the top is a list of various IP addresses, and these are all of the IP addresses that have been detected by the example, followed by the port number that has been selected on those IP addresses. And you'll note here that the same port has been selected across all IP addresses, in this case port 10,000. So we could send something to ourselves, but obviously it's more interesting if we send it to a different application. In order to do that, I'm going to open a second instance of examples console.exe. And once again, select the basic example. Hopefully you'll have an output similar to this. You'll see that same list of IP addresses. However, this time, the port number that has been selected on each IP address is now random. And this is the behavior that's been selected for this example. Should the default port be unavailable, a random port is selected. So, the goal is now to demonstrate the two applications talking to one another. So in the lowermost application, making sure it's selected, I'm going to type a string called test message, followed by enter. I now have to enter the destination IP address and port, and I'm going to select my local network IP range in order to do that. So looking at the IP addresses that are available to me at the top, I'm going to select 192.168.0.8, followed by port 10,000. And what you'll hopefully see is that the top application has received the message. It has printed incoming message from an IP address saying test message. We obviously want to tell the application we've received that message, so we're going to write test message received in the top application, followed by enter, and the IP address is 192.168.0.8, but this time the port number is 46163. If we enter an incorrect port, the message will obviously not arrive at the intended destination. Hopefully when you press enter at the top, you'll now see that the test message received string was successfully received by the second application. So that's it for the very quick demonstration of networkcomms.net in the basic example. I'll now run you through the source code that's actually involved behind that. So we're going to start by closing the two instances of examples console that we have open. Example console project, opening the file basicsend.cs. This is the source code behind the most basic example. We've done our best to comment it as much as possible, but I'm just going to run you through the active parts of this code now. So the very first line upon entering the example is networkcomms.append global incoming packet handler. In summary, this method is all about telling network comms what it should do when it receives incoming packets. For the purposes of the example, we are expecting a string object sent using a message packet type, and the second parameter is a lambda expression which writes the incoming string to the console. We've used the lambda expression here just to keep the example nice and short. You could just point the append global incoming packet handler method to a standard method, and we've demonstrated that in the advanced send example. The next line is TCP connection.start listening with the parameter true. This tells network comms that we will expect incoming connections via TCP, and the true parameter ensures that should the default port be unavailable, network comms will automatically select a random port. If this parameter is false, then calling this method may throw an exception if that port is unavailable. The next two lines print out the IP address information, which you saw at the top of the basic example, and then we enter a loop which requests a string from the user. Should that string be exit, we leave the loop. Otherwise, we request the target information. So this is where we will ask for the IP address and port. And then the line, which actually involves sending something across the network, is networkcomms.sendObject. We want to send that with a message packet type. The second parameter is the IP address as a string, followed by the port, and then the string that we've actually entered in the example. and we loop over this until we decide to exit. Once we exit, we call networkcomms.shutdown, and this ensures that all of the background tasks going on within network comms are correctly closed to allow your application to close. Thank you for watching our short video. We hope it was informative and demonstrates that it is and can be relatively straightforward to add networking to any application. If you've got any questions or feedback, we'd love to hear from you either via email or via our website. Thank you very much.